Hello everybody! This video finds us in the depths of winter, and with the busyness of December happening all around the last few weeks, I sadly haven't had a huge amount of time for drawing. I was thinking about this though, and while I've missed having that time to make a mess and explore creatively, I feel that the making of the art is also in the thinking of the ideas and the feeling deeply of life, and sometimes you need to carve out time to understand what it is you're trying to achieve. So I haven't been too hard on myself for not finding the time to make as much as I would usually this month. And of course there has been art made, there's been client work, and I found a tiny bit of time to read my sketchbook. And I also have made a festive image of these turtle doves, which has been on my mind for ages. So while I chat about finding inspiration in winter, you can watch these little chaps come to life, under increasingly bad lighting. Winter isn't my favourite. I'm a spring and summer lover. Warm, long days spent outside, growing, harvesting, swimming and feeling the sun on my skin is where I'm happiest. But those are only 2 seasons of the year, and I've decided this year that I really need to embrace and love autumn and winter for what they are too, rather than just feel like they're seasons to be endured. Of course, there are moments of wondrous joy in winter. I'm a big fan of Christmas. The get-togethers and festivities are a cosy break in the middle of it, and my daughter's birthday is in January. She found her way into the world on a blustery January evening nearly 10 years ago, and winter is her favourite season. So since then, her birthday has been a little beacon of light guiding me through January. But I think my dislike of the cold, and let's face it, here in the UK, and especially in Cornwall where I live, the wet, stems from my rural childhood, which involved a lot of time outside. It was lovely, and I was lucky enough to have a pony, and my mum ran a stable yard where some of my friends also kept their ponies. But in winter, ponies won't wait. They don't hibernate, and they need just as much care as in the summer, in fact probably more. I recall those wintry days being very muddy and cold and wet, and quite often my fingers would get so icy I couldn't actually grip the zip on my coat to undo it when I went back inside. As I got older, I would sometimes help my mum put out all of the clients' horses and ponies into the field in the mornings, rugging them up in still damp and very muddy from the day before rugs, and then we'd bring them in again to dry for the night. And it often involved sliding around in gateways that had turned into quagmires in the rain, while large warm bloods and ex-racehorses plunged about, the wind under their tails making them behave more like fire-breathing dragons than horses. Somehow, though, these experiences never diminished my love of horses, and it was rarely them that I cursed, unless somebody stepped on my foot, of course. Like having a half a ton of horse concentrated onto your toes is quite a painful experience. But it did mean that I never grew any love of winter, and I regularly swore at the bloody wind and rain and darkness. And still now my mum has horses, and occasionally I help her out. This time of year is not the one if you have to be outside every day though. Slip sliding across a squelchy soggy field is a workout in itself, and nothing will dry. Still, she keeps her horses for the same reason I enjoyed having my pony all those years ago, because she loves them, and the promise of warmer days in spring and summer, seeing them out in the field free of rugs, the sun on their backs, and enjoying a ride without fear of frostbite in your extremities is what keeps the will going to endure the winter. But as I said, I have been trying to see winter in a new light and push those frozen finger memories aside. And yes, the mud and the wet is still there, but I am learning to embrace that in a new way and trying to reframe it, such as being out in the rain is invigorating. I guess feeling the cold on my skin and the wet creep through the seams of my old coat does bring about a new sense of being alive in the world. And actually, even on those cold, wet days, stepping out of the warm house into the rain and wind is refreshing in a way that a hot summer's day just will never be. So how am I applying this kind of newfound realisation and knowledge to my creative life? Well, I've been paying extra attention. Over the last year, I've been really inspired by light and the way it comes through natural forms, creating unusual shapes. And I've been trying to capture that moment of fleeting elation that you feel when you see something just so beautiful that you can't get enough of it in your eyes. And of course my artwork will never do nature's real thing justice, but it's kind of through my painting and drawing process that I've been trying to recapture that feeling of connection to that force unknown that can only really be felt when you really pay attention. And it happens really occasionally when I'm working and in that flow state and enjoying the textures on the page and the little aha moments when things go right. The thing is, to make art in this way, I find takes a lot of concentration and attention to what's happening outside of my window in the moment. And the things that were lighting me up in the summer just no longer have the power they had. And when I look at the photographs I took of summer sun hitting petals and foliage, there just isn't that connective impact that there was only a few months ago. I guess it's like finding a feeling so wondrous and wanting to bottle it. But if the moment has passed, like summer has passed for now, then the making of the art doesn't have the same emotional connection for me. It's the same with my illustration practice. I'm always amazed by artists who can create Christmas images in the summer. That just doesn't light me up, and I find it kills my creativity. I've come to realise this year that I'm increasingly inspired by the immediacy of what's happening right now, and trying to create with subject matter that is off-season is, in a way, kind of disturbing the circadian rhythms of my art. So in order not to dry up completely in the winter, I need to learn to love it as much as I do the spring and summer and find fresh inspiration for this time of year. So in an attempt to achieve this, I've been taking myself off on longer walks recently, rain or shine, and thankfully in December we were blessed with some beautiful frosty mornings. I've realised when it comes to winter, I much prefer the extra cold if it's coupled with dry and glistening sunlit frost compared to warmer but wet and grey. These longer walks have been so beneficial. They're only about 45 minutes still, but I found that the extra time, compared to like the 20-ish minutes I was taking before, gives my mind time to relax into the walk. And the first 15 minutes are spent not really thinking about anything or even really noticing much. But then my mind starts to think, like properly think, not just about trivial life stuff, but about deeper connections. And I can let myself start to notice the shapes and the textures and what's going on around me. And somehow all the stuff of being human just slides away. It's kind of hard to explain, but it goes back to what I was saying before about feeling those moments of deep connection through paying attention and allowing ourselves to feel as well as see the beauty of the light on the land and to give ourselves time to enjoy it. I find myself noticing all the birds and all the different types, and I've learned who they are, and I see the different shapes of plants in the hedgerows, and I've learned their names too. And of course the names are things that humans have given them. The animals and plants just don't care that they have names, but it helps me to know where the place where I am. In my favourite book, Braiding Sweetgrass, Robin Wall Kimmerer, the author, talks about a thing called species loneliness, which to me is a really interesting concept. It's a deep, unnamed sadness stemming from estrangement with the rest of creation and the loss of relationships with the natural world. She says that as human dominance has grown, we've become more isolated and more lonely since we can no longer call out to our non-human neighbours. In another book I enjoyed called How to Do Nothing by Jenny Odell, she mentions the same thing in a different context. She talks about a natural place she went to, and in being there and seeing the diversity of wildlife and habitat, she felt this sudden protectiveness about it. Too often humans ignore the other life around us, and that is at our peril. A life without other life and living in a solely human community without wildlife and places where people can be with the nature that we actually are part of would wither us, and I think perhaps we'd never truly feel at home. This disconnection from the natural world happens both in the countryside and as well as in cities, and I've become so aware of trying to foster a better understanding of it in my own life that this year I find that it's been coming into my artwork more and more, not just with what I'm making but how I'm making it too, and I've been coming back to more analogue materials and not using my iPad so much. So I feel like I've digressed massively, but it does all come back to me trying to be more present during the winter and not constantly wishing for growth and warmth. So I've been out on those walks and I've paid more attention, and I've felt and tried to enjoy the prickling of the cold or the rain on my skin, and I've been trying to feel my way through the wintry shapes and the light and the rain and the frost. Because of all this, the winter so far has just really been a time of gathering. There's been new thoughts about this time of year and my art, more of which I'll share soon, about the fleetingness of our time here and our place in this world and how to communicate that through artwork. And I'm looking forward to the rest of January and February in the depths of winter now, and using this new inspiration to make art in the moment, and rather than looking backwards to what was and what I'm missing, I'll be in the moment and looking forward. And here is my finished turtle dove drawing. I had no idea what beautiful birds they are until I started researching them to draw. I'm so pleased with how this came out. I think the pink showing around the birds is definitely something I want to explore more, and using Neocolour crayons too. I love the softness and the roughness it's brought to the fronds here. So as January gets going, I'm going to take some more time to explore my art a bit, seeing as I didn't have much time for that in December. I'll leave you with these psychedelic lights that we saw at the Eden Project and at the St Justin Roseland Christmas lights. I just love all the colours against the dark night, and both events were just really magical midwinter treats. Perhaps all of these colours will find their way into my work somehow too. Who knows? I'm looking forward to sharing what comes up with this new winter inspiration, and please do stay tuned and make sure that you like and subscribe if you want to see more. See you soon!